Hello, and welcome to AP Taylor Swift,
a podcast for Swifties who love to overanalyze lyrics. We're your hosts.
I'm Jen.
I'm Jody.
And I'm Monty.
And we're your unofficial professors of Taylor Swift.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of AP Taylor Swift. On today's episode, we are going to be deep diving Elizabeth Taylor, another Life of a Showgirl special. Super, super excited about the song. The song just came out in 2025, and it's written by Max Martin, Shellback, and Taylor Swift, and is a continuation of our episode from last week where we were discussing luxury, and makes a lot of sense why Elizabeth Taylor showed up as a part of that theme. But if you have not listened to that episode, please go back and listen. It was a super fun conversation, super fun songs, if I say so myself. Before we dive in, how do we do a deep dive, Jen?
For a deep dive, we will think about who is the author, so who is the I, who are they speaking to, who's the audience, so who is the you, and then what's the purpose. So what's happening in the song, which is the question I have for this song. And at the end, we'll all go around and say what our purpose is. Sometimes I come in with an idea. Truly, I love this song. I think we may have said it last week, but when we picked our songs for last week's episode, we were like, what do we want to deep dive? And I was like, I need us to deep dive Elizabeth Taylor because it's amazing. I love it. I don't understand any of it. So I'm very excited for this.
Awesome.
Well, when we do our deep dive, sometimes we start with the title, and the title is Elizabeth Taylor. Self-explanatory, except for those who maybe don't know who Elizabeth Taylor is. I'm going to do a little bit of a recap from Wikipedia. Name Elizabeth Rosamond Taylor was born February 27th, 1932, and she passed away on March 23rd, 2011. She was a British-American actress who began her career as a child actress in the 1940s, and she was one of the most popular stars of classical Hollywood cinema in the 1950s. She then became the world's highest-paid movie star in the 1960s and remained a well-known public figure for the rest of her life. In fact, in 1999, the American Film Institute ranked her 7th on its greatest female screen legends list. And she had a long and storied career, both her professional career, but also her personal life was very publicized in the media. And I think we'll learn a lot more about her through the song. But I do want to read this one quote from Vince Canby of the New York Times from 1986, because I think it contextualizes a little bit of what we'll start to see in the song. So the quote reads, "More than anyone else I can think of, Elizabeth Taylor represents the complete movie phenomenon, what movies are as an art and an industry, and what they have meant to those of us who have grown up watching them in the dark. Like movies themselves, she's grown up with us, as have we with her. She's someone whose entire life has been played in a series of settings, forever denied the fourth wall. Elizabeth Taylor is the most important character she's ever played." So already just getting a sense of her, yes, she's a movie star, but so much of what she's known for is also her life. And she is the character, not the character she's played, which I think might come up in the song, or maybe perhaps is why she's used as a metaphor in the song.
Yeah, super interesting. We talked a little bit last week about when you achieve that level of fame, how that is definitely something that comes into being. So I think right off the bat, as we go into the song, we know that there's got to be some sort of theme around fame. And I think that there's an obvious parallel there that Taylor's drawing here, right? Like between Elizabeth Taylor's fame and her fame. So with that grounding, the intro is Elizabeth Taylor, do you think it's forever? And my first question is, what's forever? Do we think what? What?
What is it? Modifying.
What?
Yeah,
is
and
it?
I mean, I think that's a good question for as we go into the song, but off the top of your head, when you're referencing Elizabeth Taylor, you can think of, is love forever? She was married 7 times. Is fame forever? She was the top of her game and, was paid so much. Is, life forever? And then I even think of layers of, is Taylor Swift saying she feels like Elizabeth Taylor? And is it going to be forever that she feels like Elizabeth Taylor? Is she destined to the same fate as Elizabeth Taylor? All of those things come to mind for me, which I think the song will get into. The opening is part of why I'm like, what is this song about? Because all of those are valid questions and like, I don't know.
Okay, but I always think of Diamonds Are Forever, which I know is a James Bond film that she was not in, but Elizabeth Taylor I always associate with diamonds and luxury, and she's associated with her jewelry and diamond collection, so that's where I go.
Yes.
Yeah, I think in my mind that was wrapped up in like the fame and the success, like are all of these things.
But I literally
forever.
think of Diamonds Are Forever,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah, like it's
the line of the
echoing
song.
that phrase. And we talked about this last week, but she does have a perfume named White Diamonds.
She apparently said at one point, big girls need big diamonds.
Yes, I agree.
And God, I love that.
I agree. All right, so we'll have to come back to
there's
what is
something there where even if it's not directly referencing diamonds, I do think that that phrase of diamonds are forever and do you think it's forever is interesting because all of the questions that Jen asked, if you were to say diamonds are forever, and you could also argue that she was like a diamond, or like the qualities are like rarity, brilliance, sparkle, like all of the things that make up a diamond. I do wonder if that like maybe that's a metaphor throughout the song. Is she like a diamond?
Yeah. Ooh. Shall we do the first verse?
Yeah.
Yes.
That view of Portofino was on my mind when you called me at the Plaza Athénée. Ooh, oftentimes it doesn't feel so glamorous to be me. All the right guys promised they'd stay. Under bright lights, they withered away, but you bloom. Portofino was on my mind, and I think you know why. Jen, when you were like, I don't understand the song, I was like, what do you mean? And then I listened to the song and I was like, oh, you're right.
Some of it I get, but when you get into the lyrics, I'm like,
Yeah. So we've got the view of Portofino was on my mind. Okay, Portofino is in
That
Italy.
view.
It's a resort.
Very, very specifically that view.
That view is a beautiful portside town in the north of Italy. But it was on my mind when you called me at the Plaza Athénée, which is like a 5-star luxury hotel in Paris. So we got lots of luxury vacation destinations.
And for the Elizabeth Taylor part of it, both of those places are references to key spots in Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton's relationship. So Portofino, they, I think, went there on their honeymoon, definitely spent a lot of time there. He proposed to her in Portofino. And then they also apparently spent like several months living at the Plaza Athénée in Paris. So they are both key spots for Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. So I think there's like layers to the song of like, what are the Elizabeth Taylor references? Okay, what are the Taylor Swift references?
Right.
And then why are these?
What are the
Why are these
metaphor? Why is it?
Yeah, why are they intermingled? Why is this together?
I believe even in the song Paris, there's this idea of like mind being somewhere, physically being somewhere else, trying to be able to escape through that. And here, definitely, like we start off talking about the view in Portofino, but to be clear, it's important to note that speaker is not in Portofino. They are in Paris.
Yeah. That's a good point. It's interesting to me, and this is where I start to be like, well, what are we doing here? Because it's intentional, but why? The first line is incredibly glamorous. The view of Portofino was on my mind when you called me at the Plaza Athénée. So in this story we're telling, I'm in this gorgeous hotel in Paris thinking about the view of Portofino, and you're calling me, oh, oftentimes it doesn't feel so glamorous to be me. So it's a real switch there, which is obviously intentional.
Yeah.
Of like surface and behind the scenes of like, oh, you called me and I'm living this glamorous life, but then having this moment of looking around and being like, but it doesn't feel glamorous right now.
Maybe because you're not with me, right? Like I'm thinking of that time we were together and you called me at the plot. We're not together. You called me.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I like that.
So there's something there. And then I think we get a little bit more of like the inner monologue of maybe why it doesn't feel so glamorous. All the right guys promised they'd stay. Under bright lights, they withered away. So I thought I had the right people and they made these promises to me, but they couldn't handle the fame, the bright lights, which for Elizabeth Taylor,
yeah, exactly.
She was married 8 times to 7 different men.
When we first read or hear it, oftentimes it doesn't feel so glamorous to me. That feels negative to me. I don't really know what direction it's going to go in or why this person feels negative, but it feels like a negative feeling of like something's off. It doesn't feel as glamorous as we would expect. But then it talks about the other the right guys withering away. And then it says, but you bloom. And
Right.
so there is something positive here. And so it's not a wholly negative feeling. It's saying that my life doesn't feel so glamorous. I think you're right, Jody, that the only reason that she's being a little wistful is because she's not with the person. But she's generally maybe happy. She's just like feeling a little sad because she doesn't happen to be with that right person.
I have a thought. So if we're taking all of this together, the main problem in this that we're not inferring, the problem that is clearly stated is the bright lights. That for some men, under the bright lights, they wither away. What if what's happening here is saying like, oh, I'm in Portofino, you're calling me. I think there is definitely a missing that person. But what if the thing that is not glamorous is like, oh, you said you wanted to be with me thinking this would be a glamorous lifestyle. It's not that glamorous to be me. There's bright lights. It's hard. There are challenges. And you couldn't hold up, but I found someone who can bloom in this environment of like the environment I'm in looks glamorous from the outside, but it's difficult on the inside. And the challenge I'm facing is all these guys are coming in thinking they're going to be fine and they can't handle this.
But the you is the same. Like, I think the
I
you
was
is
just
the same
going to say,
person
yes,
in
I
the
was
yes,
also
yes,
going to
agreed.
focus on the you.
So, like, I think she's comparing that, like, the oftentimes doesn't feel so glamorous to me is because of all the other guys, all the right guys that promised they'd stay.
Yeah.
That, like, despite, you know, me being in these glamorous places, oftentimes that's not actually how it felt, but you bloom.
And I
You're
think there's even
different.
an argument that the you blooming, the you is also making that life feel more glamorous again when they're together.
Yeah.
We talked about this with the fate of Ophelia, and my like theory coming into this is that there are a few songs on Life of a Showgirl where she's saying, here's the famous story of a famous woman who struggled, and I'm rewriting that story because of you, the you in these songs. And I feel like that could be happening here again, but of like all these guys, they fade, but you make this life glamorous again. You bloom. Portofino was on my mind, and I think you know why.
Yeah, so maybe this is saying that like maybe she's not even really miserable or wistful because he's not there. When she's saying Portofino is on my mind, it could actually be totally positive. She's just saying sometimes it doesn't feel glamorous to be me, to contextualize the guys who didn't stay.
The bright lights are not glamorous.
I couldn't quite tell. I can't quite tell the tone of that line. Oftentimes doesn't feel so glamorous to me. Is she being flippant? Is she being dramatic? Is she being authentic? I don't really know. And maybe it changes based on where you focus.
One of my takeaways also just from this first stanza is that this is one of those moments where the speaker and Taylor via the speaker is not letting us in intentionally. We have talked about this, that sometimes she writes these lyrics that are so relatable, no matter who or what they are about, even if they are about a very, very specific instant. They're kind of open in a way that invites the listener in, and anyone can just picture themselves in that moment. Here, the lyrics feel deliberately closed off. That view in Portofino. The right guys, they withered away, you bloom, and I think you know why. We as a listener don't know any of these things, and maybe that's why it's so confusing, Jen, but like she's deliberately not letting us in here. It doesn't feel like one of those universal experiences. We're confused because we cannot relate maybe as a listener to this opening stanza.
Yeah, and I think that is true. And we also, humans love glamour. Like Elizabeth Taylor's most famous role was Cleopatra, where she was a deeply glamorized version of Cleopatra. And I think there's a fantasy element of the song in some ways too, where it's almost like she's pulling the veil away from the fantasy a little bit and being like, yeah, here's all the stuff I'm doing. It's not so glamorous. There's bright lights. And in that fantasy, it's deeply unrelatable, but we can still relate to all the right guys promised they stay and they didn't. Like, you know, we can all to some extent relate to someone let me down. Someone thought they could do this and they couldn't, and now I'm finding someone who's not letting me down. And I love how she does that, where I'm like, I don't relate to a single word in this except for, oh, someone let me down. I'm like, oh, hey, there's me. I can see that there. But we love glamour. We love the fantasy of wealth and luxury. I mean,
Yeah, it's just built up right away.
yeah.
Okay, so then we go into, and if your letters ever said goodbye, I think also referencing all of those other guys.
Right.
She is comparing her life to Elizabeth Taylor, who, again, we've said this so many times, was married 8 times to 7 guys. So it's like she's building up this metaphor, and then she's in this moment being like, but we can stop here. I don't need to be married to 8 guys. We're good here. This is to me where the switch is in some ways of like, I don't want the Elizabeth Taylor life. I want you, wish list kind of vibes of a message.
It could be her life too. I mean, it does say at the
Yes.
top that all these other guys promised they'd stay. So all the right guys. So I think it could also be that. But yeah, I definitely the parallel there is really clear. Like thus far, everything that's been written could be both of them.
Yes.
But now we get where it's more of a metaphor.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd cry my eyes violet, Elizabeth Taylor. Tell me for real, do you think it's forever? Been number 1, but I never had 2. And I can't have fun if I can't have. Be my NY when Hollywood hates me. You're only as hot as your last hit, baby. Been number 1, but I never had 2. And I can't have fun if I can't have you.
God, I love this chorus.
I can't wait until we can license the music and we can just play it instead of us like repeating. Although there is something to be said about reading it like a poem. I think you hear it and feel it
Yeah.
differently.
Yeah,
This
you
is a
So you have the-
headbanger song. It
is.
Yes.
You have the metaphor of I'd cry my eyes violet, Elizabeth Taylor, because she was known
Yeah.
for having violet eyes. And that imagery is very striking. And it's saying, when you cry, your eyes usually go red, bloodshot. Taylor Swift has blue eyes. Red and blue make purple, violet. So
I love that.
colorfully.
I also think there's like a transformation idea of like, if your letters ever said goodbye, I would like become Elizabeth Taylor. There's like a bit of a transformation. I would cry. To me, that's how I hear it. Of like, I would cry so much, my eyes would become violet, and I like would kind of become Elizabeth Taylor. I would be again assigned to the fate of Elizabeth Taylor.
Fate of Elizabeth.
That's really interesting. I like that double meaning a lot. Like,
Yeah.
cry
like
out
them
my
both.
eyes violet is like the act of transformation into Elizabeth Taylor. But I also do really love that clever idea of blue plus red bloodshot or even like bleeding tears, like the idea of like
Yeah.
literal blood. Not to be super gross, but like that she's saying violet because it's like blue
Jody
eyes
fully
bleeding.
cringed at that.
Again.
I know, it's kind of a gory thing. I like the way that, and I think she talked about this in her lyric video explanation Showgirl video, but I like the way that she just yells out Elizabeth Taylor, like kind of like how there are features or mentions on rap songs of like you make a reference and then you immediately like just say the thing that you're referencing afterwards. That's kind of what I view as the role of the actual Elizabeth Taylor, like more as a device, like a musical device,
Because you could say I'd cry my eyes violet and like that's the
Complete
metaphor.
statement.
You don't need to say Elizabeth Taylor, especially when you have all the other details in the song. Like you don't actually need to be that on the nose.
But it's also like the way that the sentence structure is, it's like full phrase and then just like yelling out that name. I think it definitely
like
like
the parenthetical
adds,
yell.
Yeah, it adds to the vibes.
I don't think this is the main interpretation, so I'm just going to say that now, but I think a side interpretation that is an interesting thought experiment is that the lines, tell me for real, do you think it's forever, is almost like a prayer to Elizabeth Taylor of saying, I'd cry my eyes violet. Elizabeth Taylor, tell me for real, do you think it's forever? Like the patron saint of like fame and broken hearts is Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah, I could see a little altar to Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah. I don't know if that's the main interpretation, but I think it's kind of a fun way to look at it, where that she's making all these references and then she's like sort of praying to Elizabeth Taylor of like, can you tell me, is this going to be okay?
Or engaging in a dialogue with this legendary great who came before that she can't actually talk to, but maybe thinks of all the time.
Yeah.
The other thing that I also thought of is whenever I hear the term violet, obviously in this context, violet eyes for Elizabeth Taylor was like very, very well known. She was so famous for it. But I also think of roses are red, violets are blue. And just how that color, violet as a flower, and how that color can kind of be mapped to blue, which is sadness. The idea that she's actually content because she has found somebody who stays, but if that person were to ever go away and say goodbye, I would cry my eyes violet. I am also immediately just thinking of that state of sadness.
You also have it, like, because you brought up violet as a flower, a lot of flower imagery. Under bright lights, they withered away, but you bloom. I'd cry my
Yeah.
eyes violet. So we have like a surprising amount of floral language and imagery here.
And we also know that floral language was a language of the rich and upper class. Like in old society, people communicated with flowers. It was definitely
Victorian
not your
England.
average poor person that did that.
Pores, they wouldn't have known.
The poors,
Tell me
the plebeians.
So here we have a repeat of the opening. Do you think it's tell me
Yes.
for real? Do you think it's forever? Which now I believe refers to the relationship, because this chorus comes after the pre-chorus and if your letters ever say goodbye. So I think that it is the
Yeah.
love saying,
I
like,
agree.
that's what
And
I want to know is forever. Are we forever? Is this love
The
is this
relationship,
forever?
yeah.
And then you have been number one, but I never had two, which I think is one of those lines, Jen, that like people are like, wait a second, what does that mean? The way I interpret that, been number one, meaning like either it can be I've been number one on the charts, or I've been the top priority, I've been the leader, I've been on
The
top of my game, the boss.
best paid female
Yeah.
actress.
But I've never had two. I've never had a partner. I've never
Yeah.
been like the way I know obviously there's a lot in here that is tied to Taylor Swift, but if I think about this from a not Taylor Swift, because not all these songs need to be just about her, you know, I'm top of my game. I have my shit together. I am a strong, independent, powerful woman, but I haven't had a partner that makes I've never thought of myself as part of a pair. Or maybe I have, but that relationship didn't last. So that's thinking the way I think of myself is as just me, but I've never had that relationship that's made me think of myself as two people.
Yeah, the pair.
A we.
So it is look at me relating to Taylor Swift and Elizabeth Taylor.
Not Jody inserting herself in the conversation with the greats.
With the greats.
You should have gotten purple contact lenses for this recording.
I really wanted purple eyes as a kid. Purple was always my favorite color, and all of my grandmother's favorite things became my favorite things: Shirley Temple, Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, Elizabeth Taylor. So as a kid, I would think I cried because I didn't have purple eyes and like didn't understand why I couldn't have purple eyes. And I think my grandmother was like, "You could have contacts," and I was like, "But that's not my eyes." Anyway,
You cried your
I
eyes
cried my eyes
violet.
violet.
I also think that do you think it's forever? I totally agree with you. I think it's about the relationship here. But what I love about it being at the beginning is that it's kind of all of it, because I think what I'm seeing so far as a pattern is this intertwining of the fame and the romance of like that was like Elizabeth Taylor was famous and romance made everything complicated. And so I like that there's a lack of clarity at the beginning, because I think it's impossible to unwind those things of is it forever, is the challenge of finding a partner while maintaining this level of fame and being good at my success and being the star, and having someone who's my partner not be the star and have them be okay with it and navigate, like all this, like you can just see the spiral train thought there of all that and being like, is that forever? And here I think it is definitely about the guy, but we're getting to a point where it's like, is this relationship forever? But also here's this very large, like, it's like an iceberg of like, is this relationship forever? And then you have this massive thing
Everything
underneath that's like,
that means.
like a lot goes into this. This isn't just
It's
me
not just
and
about
you
a
and do we
person.
love each other?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think
I like
there is
that.
this implication that maybe this question feels vague to us, but maybe to Elizabeth Taylor, it would have been a very clear question, I think there's also this element of, to ask this question, you have to have had a certain set of expectations or life experiences. And so do you think it's forever? I like the idea that it just feels so specific. It is both such a big question that could be referring to many things at once, but also feels oddly specific to something that maybe only she would get and Elizabeth Taylor would get. like, is it the relationship? Do you think it's forever? We all agree, like, in this situation, coming right after the lines, it feels that way. Is it the love? But it could also be, is it the bright lights? Is it the fame?
Also, it's kind of superfluous to ask if anything's forever because nothing's forever. like it's such a big
Right.
question and such a dramatic
Yeah.
question, and like literally nothing is forever. Everything has an end, and so it's again. I go back to the way I wasn't sure. Like the line, oftentimes it doesn't feel so glamorous to me. Could be very dramatic. I mean, the whole song is very dramatic, and that
It
question is
is,
very
yeah.
dramatic. It doesn't mean you're not genuinely asking, but there is also, like, when you actually think about that question, you're like, "Wait a second. Nothing's
Yeah.
actually forever."
But I love that after been number 1, but never had 2. Totally agree. I've been top of my game, but never had a partner. And I can't have fun if I can't have, obviously the implication is I can't have fun if I can't have you. And I just love that fun is the word she used here.
Right?
That it's not like I can't be
Yeah.
fulfilled without you. She's just like, my life,
I can't have
there's bright
fun.
lights. It's not always so glamorous. You make
Yeah.
it fun. Like I just love it's so sweet and simple in a song that's full of high stakes things.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Also,
really, like, reduces the drama.
Yeah,
yes.
it does.
It's like, "Wait a second, this is also about having fun."
Yeah, this is such a pop song. It is like a super bop. You can jam to it. You're almost doing the little rap shout outs of like made a reference at the name. And then you have these really simple rhymes. Been number 1 and I can't have fun. Like
That
rhyming
is Max
3-letter
Martin and
words,
Shellback. Yeah.
like been number 1, never had 2. Can't have fun, fill in the blank with you. Like it is kind of like a roses are red, violets are blue kind of rhyme,
Yeah, it
you
totally
know?
is. Yeah.
But there's something impactful in the simplicity. I'm listening to this podcast, How I Write, and he interviews a whole bunch of different writers and authors on their process and whatnot. And the current one that I'm listening to is all about the power of words and language. And I'm going to get the exact title because Ward Farnsworth is the person he's interviewing. It is 14 Ways to Make Your Writing Memorable. And he's literally talking about like different examples of how Winston Churchill used very succinct Saxon language, clear, small words versus French or Germanic language or French language, which is much more
Yeah.
flowery and ornate, and the different tone and emphasis that they have. And when you use these short, direct, simple words, it has a lot of power and a lot of impact. And
Well, in that specific
Winston
example,
Churchill and
also
Taylor
just
Swift. There we
important
go.
cultural context because the British and the French have a history. But
Correct.
I
Well,
really
that's why
like
I
that.
definitely recommend listening to the podcast because it goes into a lot of like the
Yeah.
political landscape of
We'll
when
do a bonus episode where I go over the whole 100 Years War and I explain the great vowel shift that happened in the Middle Ages.
They talked about anaphora in reference to one of Winston Churchill's speeches, and I was like, yes, we have a podcast on that.
Actually
We did
super
that.
cool.
We did it.
I have also been reading a book about language, so that's really fun.
There we go. We are dorks. Anyway, but also all this say it's not, this is also Max Martin. Like
It
Max
serves
Martin
a
and Shellback.
purpose.
This is
Yes.
And I think, and this is the other language that served a purpose. Be my NY when Hollywood hates me. At first I was like, why isn't it New York? In the demo, which she shared, it's New York, but the rhyme has so much more emphasis. Be my NY. It's just catchy.
The rhythm in this song is crazy. It's so good.
Also, to just even the content of that line, we know it's New York. I'll just say New York for talking purposes. Be my New York when Hollywood hates me. We know Taylor Swift has spent time in LA and New York, and moving to being in New York has been like really transformational for her. But I was also looking it up, and if there's like documentaries about Elizabeth Taylor. We're not getting into all of it, but at a high level, she ended up having a complicated relationship with Hollywood for a variety of reasons. And she ended up spending a lot of her like later life in New York being more of a socialite, just socializing, having friends, living her life there. And I love that comparison too. When we think about Taylor Swift in New York, we think about her being out on the town with her friends, living her life, being hounded by paparazzi. And LA's a little more like polished. And I don't know. I like the comparison. I like that New York is sort of this refuge in some ways.
The difference to me in living in New York and living in Hollywood, you expect to see celebrities and everybody is gathering outside waiting to see them. In New York, nobody cares. Like, yeah, you'll see them around, but like they're just unless you're Taylor Swift, they're just living their life. So you can have a bit more anonymity and privacy because there's just so many people, and you can go about and live your life, as opposed to in Hollywood, everyone's driving everywhere and you're going to get followed and people are going to know who you are, and there's also like, celebrity means something different in Hollywood because everyone's trying to be somebody and be close to
Yes.
somebody who's
I
somebody.
was actually going to
And in New
say
York, nobody
that
cares.
for me, like having never lived in either of these places but visited, like my perception as an outsider has always been like LA is a place where people go to perform,
Yeah.
whether it's
That's a
in
good way to
their
put it.
daily lives or professionally. And New York is where people go to find themselves or be their authentic selves. I think we see a lot of creative work come out of New York. Like people go there to write, to
Prettier.
get away,
Yeah.
to feel inspired. And that's a big difference between these two cities. I think LA people go to be found. I don't know if you find that same level of inspiration, even though obviously so much art comes out of there as well. It's just it's kind of like a
Ooh.
different connotation.
You said it, and I just love the summary of like you go to LA to be found and you go to New York to find yourself.
Wow.
Like I love that. I just wanted to bring in that like Elizabeth Taylor also did that. So again, I know listeners are going to ping us if we miss a reference, which is going to happen, guys.
Which is
Sorry,
going to happen. But please, we
wanted
love the
to call it out.
engagement. Comments
We do.
and
The
feedback
other
are
thing,
engagement.
a total kind of side note. So my husband's in city planner, so all about like walkability, urban planning, and one of his former coworkers, now friends, is a Swiftie. And I guess in an interview, Taylor Swift said something about like, oh, I love LA, but you have to really plan the night. In New York, the night unfolds before you. You go one place and you go to another. And she sent it to Chris and she just goes, Taylor Swift is an urbanist. And Chris was like, all right. I was like, thanks,
that is
Amanda.
true.
Get him on board.
There's a lot of, I mean, in LA, there's so much, you have to drive. You can't just, like, you're in one part of the city and then you're stuck there and then you can't just necessarily get somewhere else.
Anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think there's also, I mean, I don't know if this is totally true. So this might be a stretch, but I feel like in LA, there's like a big disparity a little bit in wealth. Also, like there's people that are like really big, but like barely surviving week to week trying to make
you get that in New York.
You do get that in New York, but I feel like it because it's a smaller and more compact city, I just feel like maybe like if you're living in the rich part of New York, you're just surrounded by, I don't know, maybe not.
No, no. It's
Okay, maybe that's some BS. But
yeah.
I feel like, I generally feel like there's so much more affluence in New York than LA.
I don't know.
LA is cheaper than even SF. So I will say just like purely cost.
Yeah, but like when you look at culturally, to your point around like what are people doing? Why are they going? Like Hollywood. And first of all, she's not saying LA. She's saying Hollywood. She's associating it with entertainment and the entertainment industry, and Hollywood is only one small part of the Los Angeles metropolitan area. And the next line is you're only as hot as your last hit baby, which I believe is directly referencing Hollywood, because if Hollywood hates me and my last hit wasn't hot, then I'm not hot, and that's why Hollywood hates me. And so New York is a place where I can go where it doesn't matter if my last hit was a hit.
Wait, okay. So from everything you guys are saying, and as I'm listening to it, it sounds like we're saying, hey, Hollywood's really fickle. New York is hard, but a little more stable. And what she's saying is, be my New York. She's commanding the you. It's an implied you of, I want you to be my New York. I want you to be the stable, the consistency when Hollywood hates me. So
I like that.
It's playing with these cities and Elizabeth Taylor's life and Taylor Swift's life, but then she's saying, I want you to be the consistent part of my life. I want you to be the stable part of my life.
To the thing that I said earlier was also, if you go to New York to find yourself and be inspired, be my New York to somebody is almost like be my muse, be my safe space, be my refuge, be my inspiration. Like you're the thing where I can find myself. Like there's a lot there that's tied to that.
Yeah. And then we repeat, been number one, but I never had two. And I can't have fun if I can't have you. So we finally get the completion of that line.
Yeah.
It is indeed you.
Yeah, I can't get over the roses are red, violets are blue.
I love that. All right.
Verse 2.
Next. Hey, what could you possibly get for the girl who has everything and nothing all at once? Babe, I would trade the Cartier for someone to trust. Just kidding. We hit the best booth at Musso and Frank's. They say I'm bad news. I just say thanks. And you look at me like you're hypnotized, and I think you know why. So, what can you possibly get for the girl that has everything and nothing all at once? Really goes back to the whole glamour of the first two lines in the first
Yeah.
verse.
And it is a mirror structurally,
Yeah.
sort of.
Rhythmically, I think you mean, right?
Yes,
Like,
there you go. Yes, thank
you
you.
have this very long first line, and then this kind of
Yes.
like aside as the second line.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's something here about like materialism, right?
Yes.
Like what material thing can you possibly get me? When you say
Yeah.
that I have everything, it's like you can get everything, you can access everything, and then nothing all at once maybe is then kind of referencing the immaterial side of things of maybe you have a lot, but sometimes you can still feel that empty, hollow feeling. We talked about this briefly with our luxury topic last week of just how
Right.
luxury sometimes has this side of uh, being
Emptiness.
something very material, but can
Yeah.
that often come with emptiness?
Yeah, and I think it's also sort of like what I mean, it's a good question. What would you get Taylor Swift as a gift? And I
Yeah.
think I think with
I'd
that
paint her
too.
something.
Yeah. Well, see, so that's exactly what I was gonna say is I think there's an old idea. We talked about this last week about like women needing jewels to like have
Mhm.
money for survival. And this idea of the lazy boyfriend, the lazy husband being like, whatever, I'm gonna go to a jewelry store, get her some jewelry. Like it's not thoughtful. It's just like whatever. I spent a lot of money on you, so you should be grateful. It's like kind of this a trope or the stereotype that I think of. And the question I'm hearing here is like, if you can't just go buy me something expensive because I can buy myself whatever I want, what can you give me?
Yeah.
Like, what can you offer? And at that point, truly, to be specific about Taylor Swift for a second, of she loves when fans do stuff. Like, there's been many times where she's been like grateful for a fan has shown her something they made, and it seems like it's very
Yeah.
touching to her. And that there's this idea of it needs to be personal, it needs to be meaningful, it needs to be thoughtful. Like, you can't just throw money. This is one of the most famous women in the world, whether we're talking about Elizabeth Taylor or Taylor Swift, some of
Right.
the richest
Both.
women in the world. You can't throw money at them and be like, you're welcome. Like, you have
Right.
to put in the emotional effort. And it's clear here that that's been a struggle up until the to find someone who's
Maybe it's
willing
not
to
how.
do that.
Yeah.
That I think that goes right into that next line of I would trade the Cartier for someone to trust. The take something material and give it away in a heartbeat, no
Right.
matter what its value is, for something that's so intangible and very much immaterial. That peace of mind to be able to trust somebody, like, can you really put a cost to that? What is the worth of that? Peace of mind and trust at this
But then
space.
we have the just kidding.
But then we
Which
have the just kidding.
Which I
Like,
think
okay, maybe not the Cartier, but
maybe
something
not the
else.
yeah, right. Yeah, like trust isn't worth that much. But I think it goes to the whole feeling that we've been talking about in the song, where there are some serious topics here about being alone versus having a partner, but it's in kind of an unrealistic metaphor of Elizabeth Taylor and diamonds and jewels and glamour. And like you can I think it's just going to like the idea that you can read this song in either a serious way or in a bit more of a like, I'm being dramatic and I want to be dramatic and that's okay type of way.
Yeah. I also think to me, you could also read the Cartier as a metaphor for success. Of like, I would
Mhm.
trade the ability to buy myself a Cartier whenever I want for someone to trust. And it's like, well, okay, no. I
I
I've
earned
actually
that.
I've worked pretty hard for this. Like, I'm thinking, going
Earn
back to the
all the time.
tropes of the almost like Mad Men era, which is Elizabeth Taylor, some of that 40s, 50s, that the idea of a woman would need to often quit her job when she got married or become a housewife. And I think with the layers of this, there is the idea of, would I trade the Cartier for someone to trust? Like, just kidding, is also, I I'm not going to give up my career. I'm not going to stop being the most famous person in the world sorry. Like, I'd love to find a partner. I really want that. But there is perhaps a
limit.
barrier of how much. Yeah. Would I trade a single Cartier? Maybe. Would I trade my entire success and career? No.
Okay, so I'm glad you said that about the single Cartier too, because again, like
I have
talking about the closed,
multiple.
yeah, the closed off language a little bit that I was talking about of how we don't exactly know what she's referencing. She's deliberately curbed the language in a way that it feels a little exclusive, like you had to be there. If you know, you know. She says the Cartier, and I am like, well, there are a lot of Cartiers, and I've me
You
and
know
all
what
my
I'm talking
knowledge,
about.
me and all my infinite knowledge about Cartier, which I've never even smelled up close. Like, I am like, what is the Cartier, right? So
For our on-site as a podcast, we'll go to a Cartier store just so you can
Just
smell a watch, Monzy.
So I Googled Elizabeth Taylor Cartier, and there's one actual necklace that kept coming up. It's this beautiful diamond necklace with a few rubies in it. And then there's also one other one that she wore that's a Cartier diamond, which actually I totally have seen on the red carpet being worn by other people. Also, shout out to my homeland, because all of these diamonds are stolen from India. And
no question.
I just noticed that like Lively has worn this Cartier, like the ruby one necklace, which is interesting. So I know like with celebrities, there's also this lore around certain kinds of jewelries, like who gets to borrow what and when do you wear it, and get in conversation with, like, I know Margot Robbie for the Wuthering Heights premiere, that has put the Indian community in uproar. Let me tell you about that.
I was gonna say, talk about stolen gems.
Well,
That's making headlines.
I think it's a yellow diamond. There's a diamond that Elizabeth Taylor was known to have that was actually like the King of Spain's diamond. That was I was in Spain and they were talking about this diamond. They're like up in arms, and then like all the things that she's worn, which are from Cartier, most likely, are stolen from somebody somewhere.
Was it well, because I was looking at, there's one of them is the Taj Mahal necklace. This like center diamond. It's like a pen. It's like a little like raindrop.
Yep.
Giant
teardrop
stone.
diamond. Yeah. But also, I love that
the Cartier diamond.
I love that you looked this up, because when I hear Cartier, I think of a watch. So I just kind of assumed it was the Cartier was a watch.
Yeah.
But you're right.
That's the thing. It's when she says that Cartier, like, or the Cartier, it's really interesting because it brings in a level of specificity that only the people who know may know.
Yeah.
And there's so much lore around these individual pieces. I mean, from a fashion perspective, just from like a luxury perspective, and just
when
like
you say the, it implies that you have other types of very fancy things. Like I think about, we're gonna take the Mercedes today, and it's like, oh, because you have multiple car options to drive. Cool, great.
Yeah, that's
okay. We hit the best booth at Musso and Frank's.
Okay, another very specific reference, a classic old steakhouse in Hollywood.
Yes, that Elizabeth Taylor was known to frequent.
Yeah. Along with other stars, like Marilyn Monroe, I was looking it up, apparently would hang out there, and like it was the place to be. Probably like the place to be and to be seen in some ways, like going in and out of it.
But here we again have the best booth at Musso and Frank, and that to me just immediately feels like the people who frequent it probably know exactly what that is.
They know. And it goes back to the whole be my NY when Hollywood hates me. Hollywood is the type of place where there is a booth.
The best booth.
that is the best booth, and only the best people can be in that booth.
Yeah.
And they say
they in the next line is my question.
I love it.
Sorry, I just had this thought of like how many people I was like, how many people do we think after this song request the best
to Musso and Frank?
Musso and
Frank's. Is it still open?
I'm sure they were like, no, go away.
It is open, but it's like, no, I would like the best booth, please.
I want
Can
the best
you seat
booth.
me in the best one?
Yeah. So some hostess or server out there is making bank by being like, oh, I'll put you in the best booth, and
I'll
just
put you in
giving
the
everyone
Taylor
different booths.
Yeah.
yeah.
Elizabeth or Swift? Both. Who's the they? I think the they is Hollywood and anybody who is also showing up to Musso and Frank's.
when I first heard the song, and obviously I don't know what Musso and Franks is. I'm not rich enough or in touch enough or West Coast enough for any of that. I was like, who's Musso and Frank? And why did they like really hate her? And then I was like, the booth at Musso and Frank. So that's probably a restaurant. But I truly at first was like, oh, it's like Musso and Frank's like restaurant,
Musso
you know?
and Frank are
That
saying
I'm
she's bad news.
Musso and Frank are
I do kind of get the
rumor
image that
mongers.
it's like a waiter coming up to her at Musso and Frank's because we just have that
Yeah.
reference right at. So you're
Yeah,
not
I mean,
wrong.
it's also
You're
the
not far
way
off.
that she just says thanks. It could be, I'm almost thinking of like people that you encounter along the way, and what do they really say, and then what is the conversation that you have with them. It like this idea of even maybe everyday ordinary people that she comes in contact with, they really say that she's bad news, or they don't actually like her. They're always talking smack about her, but she has to interact with them on a day-to-day
Right,
basis.
and I
And
just
so
say
like when
thanks.
they're doing things for her, helping her out, all she says is thanks.
And you look at me like you're hypnotized. And I think you know why. I don't know why, but that must be
It's
an
the
insight.
Cartier.
And yeah, it's always the Cartier.
Because I have a diamond that
What's
will
the-
hypnotize you.
Oh, that just makes me think of the Seinfeld. It's the cashmere, Georgie, the cashmere. Sorry, if you're not a Seinfeld fan, that didn't work. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it is just you. You know why.
You know why.
you're
You
in love
know.
with me. You know why
everyone
you're
else thinks I'm
hypnotized by
bad
me,
news
but
or
you know.
has an opinion about me.
Yeah.
But you're
You
hypnotized.
look like you're hypnotized. Probably because you are hypnotized.
So there's a lot of ands. And you look
Yeah.
at me like you're hypnotized. And I think you know why. And if you ever leave me high and dry. A lot of ands.
The high and dry is funny because Musso and Frank's is also a martini bar, like steakhouse, and I just thought
Oh,
of
I
dry
love that.
martinis, and like you have them up, which maybe is high. I don't know. There's something about the high and dry that just in this context, because I was just looking at martinis, made me think of that. But
I
obviously,
also think
to leave someone high and dry means to just leave them hanging.
Yeah.
Well, and it also makes me think of all the times she's talked about being left stranded. So in earlier songs, you leave me stranded, it's so romantic. And then in Down Bad, how dare you leave me stranded and you know, and think it's romantic. And here she's just saying, like, don't do that.
yeah.
Like we've moved on from contemplating it and we're just saying,
No, maybe
don't do it.
Okay,
maybe don't.
I just had another moment of poorness unlocked. I was talking about leaving her hanging, and so I was like, "Whoa, is high and dry a laundry reference? Like when you hang your clothes up and leave them high and dry?" And then I clicked the Lyric Genius, and it's like it's a phenomenon of boats being stranded at sea. I was like, I don't know what a boat like. Okay, great.
I'm so sorry. I was not rich enough to know that.
I missed my boat education class.
Ugh.
Okay. So then we get the chorus again. It's the same chorus. Has anything changed in how we feel about the chorus or what we think it means?
I think the only thing that's changed for me is just reiterating the importance of the you as the New York, as the separate, as the different, because of the they say I'm bad news, I just say thanks, and you look at me like you're hypnotized. Like, I don't think it's new, but going through it again this time, I'm like, yeah, I think it's really important that this person is being the New York, that is being the reason that she can have fun. Like, that's
Yeah.
really important here.
Yeah.
The lines that come immediately before this are still kind of about the relationship, but here we have a little bit more attention to they say I'm bad news, I just say thanks. Like, yes, you still have the look at me like you're hypnotized, but when she says, do you think it's forever? I also question everything that's directly in the stanza before. And you have a lot of things here. It's going out to Musso and Frank's. It's the Cartier for someone to trust, like, and being
Yeah.
able to
Yeah.
do that. Like the fact that you can trade it because you have something to trade. And so here we definitely immediately see a lot of the wealth coming out or the Hollywood side of things. And do we think that's forever? It might not
Yeah, and
last. We said Hollywood could be fickle.
Yeah, again, I think it's like a braid where all of these things are together
Yeah.
and she can be asking about one, but you can't really ask about one without the other one being a part of it. and the refusal to give up the Cartier, potentially the just kidding, is saying like, I'm not gonna undo this braid. This complex tapestry of my life is what it is, and I'm hoping to add you into it, but I'm not taking anything away to get you as a part of it.
Yeah.
I like the
Which-
simplicity of this chorus and the song.
Yeah, I was
Actually,
gonna
like
say,
it's
and
a
that
very
kind of-
simple song. Yeah.
Jen, what you just said, I think, is really echoed in the bridge. All my
Mhm.
white diamonds and lovers are forever in the papers, on the screen, and in their minds. All my white diamonds and lovers are forever. Don't you ever end up anything but mine.
Yeah,
so white
I mean, like, it's
diamonds is the name of Elizabeth Taylor's fragrance
Perfume, yeah.
and perfume. So really bringing together white diamonds as whether it's the perfume, whether it's just white diamonds in general, which are symbols of wealth and luxury and probably something you can have because of your fame and success,
yeah.
with the lovers, that those are the two things that are forever.
Yeah.
Only in the papers, which is like the media, on the screen, which is like when I'm acting, and in their minds that they think it's forever.
Do you think the they is the lovers, or is it the same they that says you're bad news?
Well, that's interesting. I
Which
feel
may be
like
both. Maybe the ex-lovers are also saying that you're bad news. Like, that isn't separate necessarily.
I always thought that their minds was referencing the lovers specifically, but it's interesting to hear. It could be. Actually, I feel like from a media perspective, people are more likely to want celebrities to break up than to stay together. Just like, it's really harsh, but it's kind of true. They're like, oh, they're not gonna. That can't last.
Yeah, I guess because lovers are plural, so I have a feeling. To me, I read that as like, I mean, from a Taylor Swift, she dated someone 15 years ago,
It
and we're
doesn't go
never
away.
letting that go.
That's exactly
Yeah.
what I was thinking
I
as
like
well.
that.
It's in the papers, on the screens, like it's also like in the media, on the internet. Stuff doesn't go away. You can't undo it. You
Right,
can't
yeah.
delete it. And if it's been captured in art, like movies, it's been memorialized, or music. And then in
maybe-
the fans' hearts, like we always will associate certain people that she's
People.
dated with her,
Sorry,
no
Jake
matter
Gyllenhaal.
how over it she is.
I'm not sorry.
I know, not sorry. But also the former lovers, maybe like for them, they're always bringing that up as their claim to fame or as like a part
Yeah.
of their life, what positive or negative, that this was part of their
It
life.
could be both.
But
Yeah.
then don't you ever end up anything but mine. Like, don't be on that list of
Yeah.
part of the papers, the screen, or those lovers who thought they were forever.
The "Don't you ever
It's
end
such
up
a
anything but
simple
mine,"
bridge.
like, to me, reminds me of just the song Mine. You are the best
Yeah.
thing that's ever been mine.
It's such a simple bridge that to me is just saying like, my persona is everywhere, but I just want you to be mine. And like actually mine. But it's still impossible to untangle the web of fame and everything and being a woman and all that stuff.
I think that there's something really key there, that this is just a part of who I am, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be
Mhm.
forever. It is an answer to the question that keeps being asked, right? Like, do you think it's forever? Maybe she's saying, what's interesting is the question is, do you think it's forever? And it's deliberately vague and we don't know what she's referring to. And the answer is, well, my white diamonds and lovers are forever. And so maybe the thing that is unclear whether it's forever is the you and that relationship, because she says, don't you ever end up anything but mine. But that still feels like open to, we will see. But there is some certainty of what is forever. It's these white diamonds and lovers. But that's
Well,
not the
and I
only thing
think-
that she's questioning.
I think, well, what I'm about to say is getting to my purpose, so I'll hold off.
Yeah,
on
well,
that.
Well, we're almost there because we've got the chorus repeats and then the bridge repeats.
Well, actually, before we get to that, then one other question that I had. This might be a stretch because it specifically says white diamonds, but she also has music records that have gone diamond. And then
Yeah, but
Lovers
she's
was
got
also a
gone
record.
platinum.
It's like my diamond records and my lover record, which notably did not go diamond. Maybe, I don't know. Okay, continue.
So for my purpose, I like this song a lot, and I think I like it more. The thing that I keep seeing is, well, kind of two parts. So coming off the bridge, the idea of is it forever? And Jody, you were saying nothing lasts forever. And it's like true. However, I think the Elizabeth Taylor reference is so interesting because she passed away in 2011. We are still talking about her. Her movies are still happening. People are like, it's like there is an element of fame at that level that means you and your stories do survive past your life. And so I think that to me gets to the crux of the Elizabeth Taylor metaphor, which I knew the fame thing. Like I kind of got it, but I was like, why this? Why is this such a big metaphor in the song? Why did Taylor Swift choose this? She doesn't do things without purpose. And I think in some ways Taylor Swift was looking around and was like, I mean, I'm hypothesizing here, but the idea that no one can understand her. No one can truly know. Like her life is so insane and so unique that to me, I kind of like the patron saint Elizabeth Taylor angle because it's like she had to go into history to find another woman who could relate to her life. And she was like, I'm going to mine her life for answers that I'm asking because there is no comparison. There is no one else who's having the life like that. I think of whenever Jody and I both talked about this, about how we both have been laid off, and that when you get laid off, people can empathize, but it's when someone else who's been through a layoff is like, hey, here's what I did. That like both are helpful, but when someone has been through it, it changes how you can be like, okay, what did you do? Tell me your story. Like that story has so much more impact on you when they've been through the same thing. And I just think that to me, that's why Elizabeth Taylor is the title of the song. It's why she's the metaphor of the song. Is that I do think for me, I think Do You Think It's Forever is directed at Elizabeth Taylor in a metaphorical sense of like, do you have any answers? I see your life and mine and my life and yours. How can I keep the good and change some of the heartache? And how can I like take it and maybe try to do a little bit better? Not that Elizabeth Taylor did bad, but like navigate like, how can I just learn the lessons from, the women that came before me? Which we kind of get from Fate of Ophelia. So Fate of Ophelia is the first song. This is the second one. And they both kind of kick off of a like, okay, how do we learn from this? How do I, what can I take away from this? And this is such a specific comparison that, I can't. If Marilyn Monroe had lived longer, that would have been another comparison. But like, man, we're down one hand is the number of women we can count who can have these experiences in the US, in the Hollywood, and then, like, it's just so specific that I think I just understand that connection a lot better now. And the purpose of this is to revisit that life and say, okay, and what do I do with this information? I found someone, would like to keep him. Let's see how this goes.
I love that. I don't disagree at all. I think for me, it's slightly different. And I think you said like this braid of fame and romance and how those are so intertwined. And I think I would just expand fame to be success and romance to make it like a little bit more universally relatable because not all of us have fame, but a
Well,
lot
speak
of
for
us.
yourself, Jody.
Well, yes, we have a very successful podcast. But just when success and romance are intertwined, how hard that can be to keep those things balanced and to have both success and romance. But here she's found someone who can bloom, and that's in her life as it exists. And that's the only way this will work. That's the only way you can have both is if somebody thrives in that space and wants to become part of it as opposed to wants to separate it out because you're not going to separate it out. And I think Elizabeth Taylor I love that you call her the patron saint. I think she is that patron saint of fame and romance and bringing those two things together. And she really serves as a mentor of sorts for Taylor Swift in whatever way she can posthumously. Of like,
Mentor's
hey,
a really good word.
yeah, and like here's the path forward. And so this song kind of makes it feels a little bit like the prophecy to me, because she's kind of like saying like, hey, I here's my situation, here was your situation, like, can this be forever? Is this possible? And
Possible, yeah.
So and I just so I love it, and it's a bop. I love a meaningful song that's also a bop.
A meaningful bop.
A meaningful bop.
Whole category.
I kind of agree in that. I think that there's two tensions in this song that are this like fame and really public life exposure and and the kind of lifestyle that comes with notoriety and extreme fame. And then there's the relationship, which, like every human craves, it's a very basic human desire. And in some senses, like people who grow up in the small town, in a small environment, you almost feel like it's easier to have that kind of a relationship. It's like people you've known your whole life. It's a little bit of anonymity, and you find your person, and then you get married, and then you live and you build a whole life together, and you live happily ever after. And it's just so uncomplicated. But for some reason in our culture, when you have fame and you get to this level of fame, fortune, success, whatever you might call it, because the eyes are on you, like I think that bridge really helps hone in on the crux of the problem. It's my diamonds and lovers are forever. They will always be there. There's so much in the paper, there's so much in the screen, there's so much in people's minds that we will never be able to shake out. It's just there. And so in that reality, can this be forever? I think is kind of like the tension point of the song. And yeah, like it's asking whoever she can ask, because it's such a small list of people that you can be in conversation with at that level. It's the way that we say that CEOs are the loneliest people in a company, because everybody else has peers, but there's only one CEO in a company.
Jen's eye roll was great.
Well, yes. I mean, I'm not talking about the billionaire CEOs. I'm talking about the struggling new CEOs. Yeah, but it's just like the way that people say that, like, the higher and higher you climb on the pyramid, the more lonely it is, right? And so in her own business industry, she's kind of at the top. And that's a lonely place to be. So there's only so many people you can reference. I did think about when we did the Tim McGraw deep dive, I thought about how it was so clever at the start of her career to reference that name in her song and the SEO and just like that side of it. And I think she does this all the time, where she'll just insert herself in conversations with certain kinds of people. And that I do love that at this point in her career, like also inserting in this name Elizabeth Taylor, and like she's referenced her before and clearly seems to be a fan, but it really does immediately establish the level of her career for everybody. Like whether you believe it or not, whether you're a Taylor Swift fan or not, when she says Elizabeth Taylor in her song and puts her in dialogue with her, I think there's this establishment and owning of like, I am the greatest. And I think that is also really powerful and clever.
Love it. Well, we did it, Jen. I hope you understand the song now. No, we all needed it.
I do.
We all needed it.
I was just very adamant that I needed it, and I do think I understand it better. And I think I already loved it. I think I'll like it even more.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, that is all we have for you today on AP Taylor Swift. Join us next week as we deep dive and overanalyze more Taylor Swift songs. That's all we have for you today on AP Taylor Swift.
Be sure to rate and review us on your favorite podcast app. Follow us across socials at AP Taylor Swift. Stay up to date.
Join us next time as we overanalyze the next Taylor Swift song on AP Taylor Swift.